Hey everyone, Maia here on another episode recording of Talky Tidbits. Today's topic, or concept to touch base into, remembering that you are never alone. I know. Some weeks when I do these podcast recordings, I'll get really jumpy and excited over whatever I'm talking about. Other weeks, I'll want to be more philosophical, offer a little wisdom that may or may not be useful or convenient to you in some way. But today I want to touch base a little on why it's important to remember that you're never alone. First of all, consider your place in the world. All right, there are billions among billions of people in this world. So chances are, whatever you're going through, be it a really good experience or a really bad one, chances are high that you are not the only one going through whatever it is you're dealing with. I know in the past, particularly, there have been times when I'm faced with a challenge, somehow, in some way, and I struggle to regain my bearings, to regain perspective objectively on whatever I'm dealing with. Because in the moment, it's so easy to be overwhelmed by what's swirling and swimming through your mind. But when you calm your mind or sit down mentally instead of running a rampage here and there, scrambling the thoughts in your mind, when you sit down to really think about what you're going through, you can more rationally come to a conclusion that, hey, there's probably someone out there who is going through this kind of situation, just like I am. Because there are many great things in this world. I know it's also easy to remember that there are many terrible things in this world alongside those good things. That's something I've come to realize more and more over the last couple of years as I've tried to understand the world a little better. But at the same time, it's important to not let go of your sanity in the process of going through some kind of experience, be it a really memorable experience or something you don't want to think about in the future because it brings back painful memories, painful ghosts and echoes that you'd rather not hear. It's easy to imagine that you are all isolated in the world because maybe physically at the moment you are, and maybe you feel that way mentally. But I think, and I can speak from a little first-hand experience, that whenever I feel alone, I find it helpful to think of someone I look up to, be that a role model or someone I trust, a friend or a family member. Think of people who support you. Think of people that you support. Think of how you've supported them and they've supported you, and how you'll likely continue both to do the same in the future and onward. Think of that. And for me, when I feel overwhelmed by a challenge, I think of my role model, someone who lives kind of halfway around the world, I guess, and I ask myself, what would he do in this situation? All right? I think to myself, he has gone through many challenges and struggles in his life, most likely, like a lot of people do. But where he is now stands to symbolize his determination and his insistence on not giving up, no matter what. So when those overwhelming situations start to take control of my thoughts, I push them back by thinking of my role model, and I think, what would he do? You know, if he were here, what would he tell me? Likely. What could I do to get my bearings on this situation and maybe grit my teeth and just go with it and hope for the best. Prepare for the worst, but hope for the best. So really, I guess maybe this touches base more into the idea of having a role model, which I covered in an earlier episode on this podcast, about why a role model can be very important to bridging the gap between who you are now and who you want to become or how you want to improve. But at the moment, I feel that it ties considerably into the idea that we are not alone in this world. You know, just imagine this. While you see the sun and the clouds in the day, someone else is seeing the moon and the stars, right? Someone who lives in a different part of the world, right? And I like to imagine everyone's life as a never-ending path. So maybe you start off alone on this path. Sometimes there's forks in the road. You take a turn, and you're alone for a very long time. But then before you know it, other paths come along, and people cross into your path, and you travel for a while. Some people will stay with you on those paths. Others will find forks in the road and bid you farewell. Others may take turns on that road and not look back at you. These are all natural occurrences in life, I think. But the important thing is to remember to ask yourself if the path you're on is the one that means the most to you. And even if you feel unsure sometimes of going about a path alone, just ask yourself, think deep down, look inside your heart and your soul, and ask yourself, is where I'm going, where I'm meant to be, or where I feel I'm meant to be? It seems like those two things are very similar, but there's a slight nuance. Where you're meant to be isn't necessarily where you feel you're meant to be, because in the end, only you can decide that. And it's also important to realize that, and this is something I was reading the other day, a story, and I got a really insightful quote out of this story. The quote was that basically things or people are never completely gone. Yes, sometimes physically they may be, but they are only gone if you decide for them to be gone. Because spiritually, they never leave your heart. And maybe that sounds kind of cliche if you're a cynical listener, more down to earth, as I can be myself at times. I understand if that is the case. But I just ask that you, at least if this is you, I ask that you think back to times in your life that you have struggled, that you've had challenges, and ask yourself how you got through those challenges. Or if you're still dealing with challenges, how can you get through them? How can you get through situations in your life, be they positive, negative, or somewhere in the middle? Just think of that, and always remember, you are not alone. There are people out there, wonderful people you will come across. You'll come across maybe some not so wonderful people, but that's all right, because this is your life to live, to make wise decisions, to have good morals, to fulfill your dreams and live life to the fullest, and you will meet wonderful people, no doubt, along the way, that will leave such an impact in your heart that you won't be able to forget them, no matter how the relationship turns out in the years to come. People will always leave some kind of impact on you, big or small. And it's up to you to decide what you make of those interactions. But the point is, again, as I wrap this up, think of this and consider it sincerely. You are never alone, nor will you ever be. Because, as the song I once listened to once said, we're all as lonely as we want to be. Maia and this is Talky Tidbits out.